Have you ever snapped at someone you care about just because you were tired? Or felt crushed by a single comment from a stranger, wondering why it hit so hard? These tiny emotional storms, they pass. But they leave behind a question. Why am I so easily thrown off balance? We often think emotions just happen to us. But the truth is, your emotions don't just come from the heart. They come from how you think. It's not the things that happen to us that hurt the most, it's how we think about them. In other words, most emotional pain doesn't come from external events. It comes from a lack of mental clarity, from a gap in understanding. Let's talk about why your mind, not your mood, holds the key to emotional strength. Neuroscientist Joseph LeDoux once revealed through his research that emotions like anxiety, fear, and anger are not just feelings, they're deeply connected to our brain's cognitive systems. Which means the way we emotionally react to something is largely determined by how we perceive it. That's why two people can go through the exact same experience and feel completely different. One feels crushed, the other finds a lesson. Emotional pain often signals not a personal flaw, but a cognitive limit. In short, it's not what happens to you. It's how you think about it that determines how you feel. So if you often feel overwhelmed, it's not because you're too emotional. It's likely because your thinking hasn't caught up yet. You're not too emotional. You're probably just seeing too little. In psychology, there's a concept called personal construct theory. It suggests that everything we believe about ourselves, others, and the world is built from past experiences, expectations, and the mental filters we've formed over time. When we stop updating those filters, we don't just become stuck, we become fragile. Take a story from a few years ago. A friend of mine wanted to start a dry cleaning business. He'd done his research, analyzed customer needs, checked out upscale neighborhoods, calculated costs, and even scoped out competitors. He was all in. Then he told his father. The reaction? An explosion. Are you serious? I put you through college so you could end up washing other people's clothes? Who's dumb enough to pay for that when they have a washing machine at home? From the father's point of view, this sounded like career suicide. Why? Because he was viewing the world through the lens of his past, a time when people hand-washed everything, and dry cleaning felt like a luxury for the elite. What he couldn't see was how much times had changed. With rising incomes and expensive wardrobes, people wanted quality garment care, but instead of asking questions, he passed judgment. Instead of seeking to understand, he reacted emotionally. The result? The business never launched. Father and son barely spoke for years. When people can't understand something, they often reject it. And when they can't control something, they get angry. Psychologist Beck, one of the founders of cognitive therapy, explained this, well, emotional distress isn't usually caused by external events. It's caused by distorted thinking, by filters we don't even realize we're using. And the more limited our awareness, the easier it is for emotions to control us. Most of the time, we're not lashing out because the situation is unsolvable. We're lashing out because it's incomprehensible. It doesn't fit into our mental model. When you don't upgrade the way you think, you stay trapped in the same emotional loops. Same event, different brain, equals different life. Psychologist Albert Ellis had a famous theory. People are not disturbed by events, but by the view they take of them. In other words, your reaction is shaped more by your cognition than your circumstances. Let's take a look at two people in the same situation. At a growing media company, two interns joined the same team at the same time. Both were smart, hardworking, and eager to prove themselves. Then, 1 month, the team failed to hit its performance targets. The manager called a meeting and gave the team a stern, maybe even harsh critique. The first intern took it personally. Why am I even here? I'm just a nobody. This is humiliating. She spent the day sulking, snapping at coworkers, and withdrawing from team activities. The second intern saw it differently. Wow, The boss gave me direct feedback. That means she sees potential in me. I better reflect on what went wrong and make a plan to improve. She reviewed her work, reorganized her workflow, and over the next month made significant contributions to the team's turnaround. 3 years later, the first intern was still doing basic admin work. The second had been promoted to team lead and eventually became a business partner to her former boss in a new startup. The same event, two completely different outcomes. What made the difference? Cognitive framing. There's a famous principle called the 90/10ths rule. 10% of life is what happens to you. 90% is how you respond. You can't always control what happens, but you can control the story you tell yourself about it, the lesson you choose to take, the lens you use to view it. Change your lens, and the whole picture changes. Want to master your emotions? Master your attention. Let's be honest, everyone has moments when their emotions hijack the wheel. But what separates people who spiral from those who stay steady is what they pay attention to. True composure comes from clarity, not from suppression. I remember a story that perfectly captures this idea. Back in college, a student shared a dorm with several roommates. One night, he found himself furious at the guy sleeping above him on the top bunk. Why? Because the guy kept tossing and turning, making noise, and ruining his sleep. He fantasized about revenge, about teaching the guy a lesson. Why can't he just lie still like a normal person, he thought. But then, one day, a friend told him something that stopped him cold. Actually, you're the one who snores like a freight train. He's just struggling to fall asleep. He was stunned, embarrassed, ashamed of how quickly he had judged and how wrong he had been. That moment changed him. He began to question his assumptions, to pause before reacting, to consider other perspectives he might not see at first glance. When your mind expands, your emotions shrink. Because you're no longer reacting, you're responding intentionally. Philosopher Epictetus once said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. And the wiser those views become, the lighter the emotional burden." Grow your mind, free your emotions. As philosopher Bertrand Russell once wrote, "The degree of one's emotions varies inversely with one's knowledge of the facts. The less you understand, the more emotional you become." We all get emotional. That's part of being human. But if you can slow down, reflect, and reframe, you don't just survive emotions. You transform through them. Because when you raise your thinking, you don't just understand the world better. You begin to understand yourself. And suddenly, the same things that used to break you don't even touch you anymore. If this message hit home, give it a like. Not for me, but for the version of you that's learning to breathe deeper and think higher. The more advanced your thinking becomes, the easier it is to meet a more peaceful version of yourself. Let your mind grow, and your emotions will follow.